my name is Nate Milam. I live in Maryland, and I'm impacted by HLH. That's hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis. My journey began when I was 7. A little bit before that, because I was experiencing symptoms before then, but I was misdiagnosed with Crohn's at 7 before I started my journey of treatment. I wasn't diagnosed properly until 12 years later. I was a sophomore in college, and I believe when I was first diagnosed, I was in elementary school. So my entire primary education, I was being treated for Crohn's. I realized that my life would never be the same after my first hospital stay. Um, I hadn't really spent a lot of time in the hospital for anything complex prior to then. Um, but being treated for Crohn's is a very complex process. There's different treatments and medications, and they like to observe you because nutrition is a very important factor. And during the peak of my symptoms, I wasn't able to eat a lot, so I was very malnourished. So I was under a lot of observation. My first hospital stay, I was in the hospital for more than a week, and that trend would continue. Each time I would go to the hospital, I would start to expect to be there for at least a couple weeks, um, up to months at a time. So I started realizing that my life was just permanently changed when I started going to the hospital more, and it started feeling more like home than everywhere else. I usually say something along the lines of HLH is a rare blood disorder that um, is sort of, it can be imagined as a system. So everyone's body has an immune system, and we all have fighter cells that attack the bad cells. And I think that's a general basic understanding of the human body. We want to be at homeostasis, and when it's not, our body auto regulates and corrects itself. So when there is an infectious trigger and my body is sensing this trigger, it's going to send fighter cells to attack the trigger. Um, my disease plays its role when it comes to the end result of this process. So these cells are fighting the bad cells. They're going to war and they're winning. The cells are, I would say, just very rowdy. They brought their energy to the fight and they're attacking all the cells, and now the infection is gone. But the cells are still hype. They're very much active and they're not turning off. So they're like, what else can we fight? And they start targeting other organs within the body. The peak of my flare, my HLH flare, I was ended up being septic in the hospital, and it's because these cells were fighting critical organs in my body. My liver was failing. I had lots of infection and fevers, and I was laying in the ICU for months. So I would explain my condition as my doctor. He said this is a gas pedal without brakes. Well, not a gas pedal, a car without brakes. It has a gas pedal, but it has no brakes. So the cells are constantly going once they're turned on, and there's no function to turn them off. So treatment and medication are ways to help, but the only way to cure my body was a bone marrow transplant. It now to me makes so much more sense. Like I said, I've been studying this own definition myself for years. I had my transplant in 2019 and it's 2024. So it's been a long time since then. It's crazy to say that now. Then I wasn't even thinking about now, but I've been studying this disease and what it means to me and how it's affected me. Is it something that I'm ashamed of? Is it something that's I should represent, that I should you know claim and hold close to me? It's a part of me. I think my life is going to be great because of my journey. I don't think I would have the tools and resources and the ability to help the people that I can help now without having experienced 12 years going misdiagnosed, unfortunately. So I've been really trying to study my disease and figure out what it means to me and how it's affected me. And now I feel like I'm in a much better place to understand it. And so I think I'm better able to convey that to people. One thing that I would like to tell people about my disease without having to say is that it is very complex. It is severe. It is life threatening. Children have died. Um, I was told that in many scenarios, in the peak of the HLH present, many kids don't last very long. They don't last past a few days after. Um, it's very serious. HLH it can be invisible. And I think a big issue that I also want to tackle in the rare disease and the chronic disease community is that when your disability is invisible, it's still very real. I think that it sometimes can be a bigger fight to fight for accommodations when people can't see that you're physically disabled. And I've experienced that too. I know that's a very relatable sentiment. Unfortunately, um, a lot of histiocytic disorders are pretty under the surface, but they're very serious. They're very severe. And I wish that I didn't have to tell people when I went out. I have an ostomy bag as a result of my diagnosis. Not every HLH person has an HLH person. Not every patient affected by HLH has an ostomy bag, but I do. All our journeys are very different, even though we can be impacted by very similar disease processes. But if you see me in public, you wouldn't know. But when I am at home alone, I am fighting this thing. I've had it for over a decade, and I am fighting my bag every day. It's a battle I fight in private. No one knows, which is part of my life. So we are all dealing with things daily, even though you can't see it on us. I miss days because I'm prone to getting bowel obstructions because of the scarring in my intestines due to so many surgeries. No, you can't see the scarring, but if I eat pasta one day and I'm fine, I could eat pasta the next day and then I could be in physical agony for hours because it's not going down. So I'm still suffering years later, even though you don't see it. That's what I want people to know. Oh my gosh. That's a great question, and it's going to make me cry. But I have been helping people with my journey for a long time, and it's really been something that's been hard for me, just because during this whole time I'm helping people, but I'm also waiting and hoping that one of these days I can find a way to feel better myself. Just thinking back to the institutions that I stayed in for months at a time, Children's, Hopkins, I would be there for months and I would see patients, see kids come and go. A couple standout patients came in and they were suspected of having Crohn's. A couple were suspected of having ulcerative colitis, UC. And because I had been in the hospital since I was 7, and that's not a super common thing that patients should be experiencing. I kind of had the ear of the professional in the hospital and the nurses, and so when there would be patients there who were being recommended treatment or diagnoses of Crohn's, or they would say, we have a patient here who has Crohn's. You should go talk to him about what having a bag is like. You should go talk to him about how he's dealing with that. Um, and I helped give a lot of advice. I had talked to a lot of patients. I've seen them get bags. I've seen them leave. I've seen them come back, and I've seen them get them removed. So I've been helping patients for a long time, and it brings me joy. I like knowing that I'm helping people and that I'm impacting people in a positive way. Um, I never had Crohn's, so I was giving advice based off of information that I had at the time, but I wouldn't know that I would be feeling better until many years later. So I adapted in an interesting way. I am a person who really values connection. I was born an only child. So I was born an only child. I am my mother's only child. So I got a lot of support from her. And when it came to our new reality shifting to most of our time being spent inside the hospital, we grew our family. Um, the nurses, I quickly realized how valuable they were. They will be your primary point of contact. They will be the person looking out for you, the person who has got your back. They are your go to if you need anything, call me person. And yet, still the first person who will get blamed if something goes wrong. If a physician comes in the room and there is something not done, no matter if it has nothing to do with fault, I witnessed many times my nurses getting blamed. We bonded quickly because I started realizing that doctors are hard to talk to, and nurses make me feel like home. And here are these medical professionals in charge of my care, and verbally attacking these people who are making me feel safe. So I this this new lifestyle helped me grow a quick attachment to nurses and then seek out the type of care that I wanted to have. So while I was growing through the years in these hospitals in and out, I was growing my relationships with these nurses, and that's why I have a lot of relationships with a lot of staff in various hospitals because on my walks, I talked to everybody. I did laps around the halls. That was what I was known for. Um, I would travel floors. I was there for so long. I would wake up and maybe have breakfast if I wasn't NPO. But most of the time I would be not eating for months. So I would be seeing one set of nurses first half of the day, and the next half, I would know their names. And it became like family. Um, these nurses started teaching me how to use my voice. That like you are the patient, and actually you are in charge of your care. Um, we're here to give you that push and be that buffer in between when you need it. But as you as you grow, you're gonna want to know what's going on, so you can be aware, and you can. Why am I feeling this way? Oh, I know. I was paying attention. I understood that. I can ask questions. If I don't want my blinds open, I can say that. I'm not a hostage here. I have a voice. When I got sicker, when the HLH really started saying no one is recognizing me, so I'm going to make my presence extra known now. I was introduced to palliative care, and this very special lady, um, her name is Cora Welsh, and she helped me in a major way cope with my HLH diagnosis, cope with the fact that I had been living a lie all my life, the fact that every experience that I have had, um, didn't really need to happen the way it did. She helped me kind of see who I was, what my purpose was. I just decided to be a patient advocate because of Cora Welsh. Um, she was my advocate in the hospital, and then when I started really using my voice and and notably not always receiving positive feedback, because one thing I did learn is when you start speaking up for yourself, people aren't used to that, and then it becomes a problem. So I I learned how to grow, and I learned to push back against the idea that you know we now have a problem with you speaking up, and I think that I become a little bit more assertive as well. And so I think you have to have a certain kind of intent and confidence and determination when it comes to advocating for your healthcare. That's what Cora taught me. These physicians, some are nice, some are not. Yes, they're going to help you, but they don't always know what is in your best interest. And doctors are rude. I would often make my requests known, and they would simply ignore them. But that's when you reiterate, no, I'm a person here. I'm a human person, and and I have these needs. My mom would always say, you make sure that you tell them what you need, because at the end of the day, they go home and they're not thinking about you when they're in their bed. They're not in bed thinking, oh, what's Nate doing right now? They're prescribing the drugs, and then they're going home, and then when you're in the hospital trying to get medication that you need, and your order is now changed because no doctor spoke to you about um, you know no there was no communication. Now you're needing medication that's not there, and the doctor is home, so you're the one in a tight spot. And you know what I mean. So it's just, the doctor is always good. I learned that the doctor is good. They have the means to get good, but when they're gone, they're really hard to get in contact with. When they're not around, it's hard to find a doctor. So you have to make your needs known, because um, those those precious moments are important, especially because doctors, and the FaceTime you get with them, especially in comparison to other healthcare professionals, it's not a lot. So you definitely need to make a statement. But yes, the way I adapted was finding my voice and creating a new family within the hospitals that I was in, whether that was the nurses, the chaplains, palliative care, new patients that would come in, child life. How could I can't forget child life ever. The volunteers, the the amazing volunteers who donated their time. Some like played instruments for me. I learned the guitar. I learned how to knit. We had bingo. I like there was a lot of good memories in the hospital, which is a crazy thing to say. Um, but I had to mentally process the situation and find those connections, because that's how I thrive, off of connection. There were definitely days where I just felt way too sick to do anything. However, I hope, and if they don't, this is my message now, that volunteers are super important, and they don't always know how impactful they are. But I remember my volunteers. They may not think that I do, but I remember them. I remember them very clearly. And the med students, I remember them too. Um, because I was a seasoned patient. So I would always get people would say, go to Nate's room. He's been here forever. He'll be a good patient to practice on. He'll help because I didn't mind having new people. You know, I just liked meeting new people. Go to Nate. You would love Nate. Go to Nate. So they would they would come to me and I would learn stuff. I've heard a lot of stories from skydiving, all this, just volunteers are very, very, very impactful. I don't know if they know. Sometimes people just volunteer for credits. But when you are taking the time to go spend your time with people who are in the hospital who can't leave, who may not feel up for doing anything, the fact that someone is willing to just spend that time with me is very appreciative, and I value that. And they're always so kind. I can't imagine a volunteer coming to see a patient and they're just rude. So I it takes a special heart for that. So volunteers, we appreciate you. I appreciate you. Um, it may not. I think people may downplay volunteers, but no, they're very, very, very important. My healthcare journey has affected my parents in major ways um, that I never in a million years would have even thought to realize. I am now understanding that the same time that I lost to my misdiagnosis is the same time that my mother lost. She lost the same time because she was in the room with me. She may not have been sick, but she didn't have a social life. Um, she was there pretty much every day. She really went home, and when she did, it was to get clothes and come back. So she lived there too. And now it's feeling like, for me anyway, after the hospital, I realized there was a bit of a learning curve to life. When you spend so much time in the hospital, certain things in life that are more common sense to people, you have to learn them. And so I had to do a bit of adjusting when I got out. Um, I'm 25 and I make friends very easily. I've been learning that it's a lot harder to make new friends when you're older. And so my mother, most of her friends are family. And not that that's super bad or there's anything wrong with that, but she did lose time too. And she did lose moments and Jesus, she did lose some experiences that she could have had. So also, she had her front row seat to the whole experience. I lived through it during a large chunk of my initial HLH diagnosis when I was septic. I was experiencing ICU delirium, and she had to watch me hallucinate. And she had to watch me be handcuffed to the bed, and she had to watch me with the tube in my throat when I couldn't talk. And she had to watch me wake up from it, and she had to watch me struggle. She had to watch them put me back out. She had to watch every allergic reaction. She had to watch it all. She had her front row seats. So when I'm passed out, my mother is watching it. So I had to really um, think about how, even though this journey was very hard for me, I could imagine being a parent and watching my kid um, live this life from 7 to 19. And most of that time, you're in charge of all the decisions. It's not like you went to med school and you were trained for this, and it's not like you could have predicted that you're going to have a son who had this ultra rare disorder. Not this, my disorder is not ultra rare. It's orphan, but it's not super common. So you don't predict these things. So I was diagnosed with Crohn's, and she took it one step at a time. Um, each hospital stay, each month, every night with the nurses coming in, and then the doctors, and the mornings where they come in and turn all the lights on without asking you. They shine the flashlight in your face, where she has to sleep on the cold couch that doesn't ask for sheets. Um, we had to create a routine schedule for can you cluster the care so you have to come in 5 times a night so we can actually maybe sleep some. Um, she was there. It would be different if she weren't, but she was there, and I think that my experience has impacted her um, almost like very, very, very closely to the way it's impacted me. Um, and my father, my I just know it's very unexpected. I'm named after my dad, and I think that's a very special bond. Um, and we didn't do a lot of connecting when I was growing up, and I know he watched me mostly while I was also in the hospital bed, and he he always has said that I'm the strongest person that he knows. I don't really, I wouldn't consider my dad to be someone who shows a lot of emotion all the time. Um, but I don't think I've seen him more afraid than when I was going through all of this. So that's my answer. They were hit very hard. I didn't know until after, but I have been processing all of this. It's insane to think about, because it's for me. It felt well for both of us. It was a long time. That's a lot of time to live that way, and so it just feels like now that it's over, the worst is over. There's so much more for me to look forward to. Um, I think I have more goals I'm trying to achieve than she does now. So it's like I one thing that I aim to do and I'm really trying to do is this journey is not just for me. I have had this dream of advocating and using my voice to help people for a long time. And I've always seen this vision of what I'm going to do, and I've never had a doubt. That's never been a fading thought. I've had one goal always, um, and I want to make sure that she is recognized, that she knows how much I value her, how much I appreciate it, and because at least she can maybe see some sort of results from it. He was able to turn this into this. All my life, my family has been saying that there is no way you have to be destined for something. There's no way this is just what it is. Like you're gonna be doing great things. My grandfather, my grandmother, like everyone would always say, and unfortunately, a lot of them aren't here anymore to see that, and that's been something I've been struggling with. Um, because I feel like yes, yes, when I feel like um, for a few of my relatives, the majority of my life I was sick, and so that is my memory. is being sick. And so to make my life something. I need to I need to continue chasing these dreams, and I need to that's why I'm so focused, because I'm not doing it for just me. I think it means a lot to all of us. Music has always been something that's been important to me. I've always liked the feeling it gives me. I love good lyricism. I love a good rhythm. I love a good beat and a good melody. I was treated at three different facilities, three major ones over the course of my treatment, and I would say that was the main thing. That's also why when I experienced Seacrest Studios at CHOP, it was so impactful to me because it just provided so much entertainment that I value as a person. When I was diagnosed with HLH, I went through a heavy depression. And I didn't want to listen to any music. I didn't want to do anything. I I could not listen to music. It annoyed me. I hated it. My mother kept asking me to play it, and I would refuse because I wasn't I wasn't in the mood to hear anything. I was just so sad. Um, Luckily for me, she ignored me. She ignored me. My mother and I bond over Taylor Swift, and she would play Taylor Swift on her phone. Um, and it was annoying because I didn't want to listen to Taylor Swift. I didn't want to listen to anybody. I told you I don't listen to music. You know, music is crazy. It's very powerful. She would just keep playing it, and eventually it starts to sound a little good. And then slowly each day I would find myself listening to a little more and a little more. And the next thing I knew, I had made an entire playlist for. I actually made it for one of my favorite nurses in the hospital, but it turned into the jam playlist that I would play when I would go on my walks in the hospital. And as I said, that's what I was known for, doing laps around the floor. The floor. So I would play music for everybody while they were working, while I would walk around, add songs people like to listen to. What do you like to listen to? Send me some songs. And I added it to the playlist. And so we created these collective, like a large group of songs that just uplifted me, and I tried to recognize myself again at some point. This was a bit after, but it pulled me out of my depression, and I still have the playlist to this day. I listen to it. I don't add to it too much because I'm trying to like capsule it. Um, but music for sure is something that definitely helps me escape. I also mentioned I learned how to knit when I was in the hospital, and that is a skill that I fell in love with at the time. And so I did a lot of that, a lot of knitting, a lot of knitting in the hospital, as well as coloring. People would say that I'm creative slash artistic. So whenever volunteers or artists would come around with their magazines or their collage making kits or their painting sets, I'm always down for art. Come to my room. They always just send them to me. Go to Nate. He's in this room. He's waiting for you. He just had his lunch. He's all ready to paint now. So that's what they would do. I would make beads, and I I it just helped me. It honestly just helped me like feel more like a kid. Um, I spent a lot of holidays in the hospital. That's the other side of just being a chronic hospital goer, is that you start to be there for holidays. I was there for many birthdays, many Christmases, and my family would bring trees to the hospital, fake trees. We would um, make ornaments. They would bring ornaments from craft stores, and I would give them to nurses to decorate, so we could put them on the tree. For Halloween, I decorated my door, my room. I hung lights for Christmas, like on my curtains. I had to make sure that I was somehow in touch with an outlet, because there is nothing to do and you will lose your mind. But I guess that is one beneficial thing from living there, since you're developing. I developed in the hospital. I kind of learned things about life in the hospital. I keep getting told that I am so mature. I've been so mature for my age. But I lived in the hospital. I had to really do a lot of thinking. It was just me, my mom, and my thoughts. And I really had to just think about, what is life worth to me? What is all this meaning? How serious are things really? I did a lot of that. So um, things like music and art and anything creative really helped distract me and pull me out of that. Yeah, I think it really puts something else more in focus. I don't know what it is about it, because even now when I do things like for every life, for my internship, a lot of the things that I do are administrative slash, no, a lot of things I do are administrative. I design a lot of things and I use a lot of templates, and that's what I do. I A lot of people say they can't work on the computer because they get sidetracked and they get distracted and they can't focus. I kid you not, when I am working on something, I am such a perfectionist that the fact that I'm creating something, I'm trying to make something happen. I'm trying to design it the best perfect way that I can, and I am literally, I can't focus on anything else until I finish it, because it's it overtakes me. And that's how it is with, like, with painting and things. Like, I get frustrated because it's not looking the way I wanted to at first, and I will not stop until it is. Like, I you will have to literally say, Nate, you've been doing this for, let's take a break, like, let's go do something else. And because I will just do it, and I'll spend hours on it and not realize. um I think that's why it helped me a lot, because I like the outcome. I like the process, obviously, but I like seeing what I can create. I like seeing the results of it. And if I finish something and then I'm thinking about it, I'll think of 20 more ideas and go back and add to it. And so it's a whole process. My brain just gets so invested in it. So I've learned that I've learned that I'm incredibly resilient, um, patient. I have I've had to wait for a lot of things. I've had to wait for my diagnosis for 12 years. I've had to, um, if you're in the hospital for a week, um, because you went in for a bowel obstruction and they did surgery, uh, sometimes you can't leave until they deem you nutritionally fit to leave. My body did a lot of fighting me when it was time to do that. So sometimes I had to wait a lot to leave the hospital because my body wasn't letting me leave. I've been, waiting for surgeries. I've been waiting to get my bag removed. I've been waiting to finish school. I had to take a few years after school to finish. Waiting for a job. I'm waiting for a lot. So I waiting in the ER. Waiting. I've done a lot of waiting. So that is something that I've learned about myself. I'm very patient. People have commented about it. I bring it up because people have commented about it. People. One of the thing. One of the main things people tell me, especially strangers, are that they notice that I'm patient. And although I know it's a quality that is useful, it's not something that I developed because I really wanted to develop it. It's something that I grew to be good at because the one thing that you can't control in the hospital is time. You once you're there, you have to follow the system. So I've learned that I'm very resilient and I'm very patient. And although there have been many times where I felt like my whole life experience has been a large joke, that it's crazy that I was born with almost all the allergies in the world. And then I was misdiagnosed with one of the weirdest chronic conditions early in my life, without knowing how to explain this to anybody. Um, and then I had 14 plus surgeries, and then I had a rare disorder, and then I had chemo, and then I had a bone marrow transplant, and then I had gallstones. Um, I've been feeling like, you know, this is kind of funny. I'm very determined to make it something. Um, the only way I see is forward. So, as I mentioned before, if not for any of those crazy, unfortunate, silly things, I would not be as confident as I am about being able to help the people that I can help today. I know without a doubt 100% that I have a strong voice, that I impact change, that I impact people, that I can make people feel things. I know that I am contributing something to the rare disease community that is very special, and powerful. I would not feel that confidently if not for those crazy things. I feel like I've been through so many things that I have a wide range of things that I can relate to. I can talk to patients about almost anything because I bet you I've had to do it, So I have I've learned that I I'm strong. I'm stronger than I think. Every day I'm learning I'm stronger than I think, because I often do want to, just say, you know what, who needs a job? And maybe I'll just, I don't know, um, or sometimes my bag is giving me issues, and I'm hating my life again. I'm like, I may not be having an I may not be septic right now, but my bag is leaking, and that's irritating me. you know, uh, Pick your battles. Which one would you rather have? But I'm stronger than I think. I am experiencing challenges daily that I think most people cannot relate to. Um, and it's often hard for me to talk about because when I do, there's times where I hear just passively, like, everyone has problems, you know, or yeah, life's just a bit difficult, and they generalize it. And that's not a fact that I'm not aware of, that life is difficult. Yes, I'm aware that life is difficult. I think any rare disease patient, to tell them that life is difficult is kind of a slap in the face. It makes me upset. Um, because I know life is difficult. Don't even get me started on how difficult life is. Um, I didn't come, I'm not venting to you to hear you tell me that life is just difficult. I'm incredibly frustrated about this specific situation, this thing right now, and I just need someone every once in a while to just say, you know what, you're right, that does suck, and I'm sorry, because I want someone to just hear me and understand, and sometimes I want to be upset, and it's okay to be upset. I know it is, um, but I don't appreciate it when I bring it up to people and they generalize the feelings. The crazy part about this is I honestly cannot remember exactly how I found the Histiocytosis Association, but I know that someone showed it to me. I know that it was a physician, and I also know that I mentioned, because I was applying for colleges after my transplant. Well, first during my transplant, I was it was just very very intensive care being had, and I was not the school was telling me that I had to drop out. So I had to drop out of my college at the time and focus on going back afterwards. So when it was time for that process, I am a person who is not afraid to use their resources. I think that's a very smart thing to do. And if you're kind, usually people are down to help you. So I asked around. I was um, not a big fan of applying to scholarships. I was feeling like the system of applying to scholarships was almost rigged. It was feeling impossible. I was feeling like I was consistently writing these essays and sending them to all these different platforms and never really receiving any assistance. It's very difficult. I there. It's kind of a mixed. So I'm fortunate enough to not be in a financial situation to need assistance. However, I'm also not wealthy enough to be able to afford college out of pocket every year. Um, so when you're filling out the FAFSA and you have too much money to receive help, you have to turn to scholarships. The downside of that is most scholarships are feeling like a lottery system. There's 1,000 people applying, prime candidates. What are the chances that they're going to pick me? So when I found out about the Histiocytosis Association scholarship, that mindset didn't change. In fact, I did not want to apply because I was feeling like there's no point in applying. I'm not going to get it. It's a lottery system. Scholarships are a scam, and I'm not going to get it. That's obviously not true. I love scholarships. I've applied to many since then too. My mother gave me some wise advice. She said, "You are aware this is a scholarship for rare disorders, and rare meaning many people probably won't be applying for it. You probably have much better chances of receiving something, especially because there's different tiers of awards. So you have more than one opportunity to really make an impression." And my mother has never failed at giving me successful business slash career guidance. If that is any lesson, it's that don't count yourself out. I shared my story and I moved some people. And I was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship. So that's how I found the association. And the rest is history. A year after my scholarship, I was interviewed about my progress in school. And I inquired about more opportunities to use my voice. This voice that I've been curating, and I was given some advice to join the ambassador program, to apply for the ambassador program, and that is how I ended up here a couple years later. Thank you. Yes. Which I just finished. Yes. I There's never been a better feeling, and I used to wonder too if it would actually feel better or if I would miss it. People would tell me that I miss school. I'm like, what? You miss school? Because I can't wait for school to be finished. So I really can't imagine that. Um, I think too much of anything is probably not the best idea. So this break is very much needed. I definitely want to go back to school to pursue a higher degree. So that probably answers my question. I think my relationship to knowledge is growing more advanced as I get older. I think I'm appreciating knowledge more. I think I'm wanting to learn more. I think I just needed a break because I was doing school and I was tackling rare disease, and it's a lot on the brain. So I was about done with that, but I'm very glad that I was able to get the scholarship and meet this family and um, and finish school the way I was able to finish it. Just thinking about it now, if I finished in the time that I thought I was going to finish, I don't think I would have met the association. I think that the first thing that you should know is that it's okay to not be okay. That's super, super cliche. But feelings are natural. Naturally, there are going to be a range of emotions from anger to sadness. Don't question it. Don't push them away. Don't try to fight them. It will cause you stress. Coping with a new diagnosis is something that a lot of us in the rare disease community have a, a lot of experience with. We all process it in different ways, but I think that a lot of us can agree that it's not easy. If I were wanting advice for myself, I would want someone to tell me that it's okay when I am having a bad day, and I can have that bad day, and it doesn't make me any less strong or ungrateful. I can be really mad and pissed at the world, and I can still appreciate life. And I don't have to be ungrateful because I'm complaining all day today. Sometimes it's hard, and that's okay. I want you to feel your feelings. That's the first thing I want someone to know, that be human, and other humans will see that and show up for you. Um, Beyond that, be prepared for the journey. It is not something that anyone else can prepare you for. Um, and it is not something that you can necessarily plan for because it'll take a lot of unexpected turns. Prepare for the challenges, prepare for it being challenging, prepare for it being lengthy, prepare for utilize your resources. One thing that I failed to do, and I have been kicking myself for a couple years now, is when I was sick, I didn't really want to do a lot of researching. I wasn't really feeling well enough to do a lot of things when I was inpatient, honestly. So I didn't do my due diligence and think to Google um, group support groups for histiocytosis when I was diagnosed. I didn't do that. Um, they were existing, but I didn't look. I didn't discover the rare disease community until after my rare disease was cured. Don't do that. I think I would have had a much better time. I probably would have had an easier time adapting and coping with my diagnosis if I had someone in my community that I could talk to about it. But it was my mother who was also new to it, and my doctor who I felt had a giant ego, so I didn't want to talk to him about it. So it was very lonely for me, but it doesn't have to be because the internet is so powerful these days, and we are out here. The community is so large. So knowledge is power. Don't be afraid to use your resources. Ask people. I was seen in a couple of facilities that housed histio experts, experts in the field of my rare disorder, and I never got to speak to them. So, kind of try and do some looking. Get as much information as you can because you can probably make some things a lot easier for yourself. And know that you have a huge community of people here um, who are with you, who are fighting for better care for you, who have who have lived it and understand and and know that it's tough, and if you want to just let it out, we get it. My advice would just get ready for a very challenging experience, but try and equip yourself with the best tools and resources so that way getting through it will be much easier than otherwise. Meeting everyone, this whole experience has allowed me to find community in a place I never thought I would. From 7 to 19, I was always the sickest kid I knew. I was in school and I was always the kid who was absent because he was sick. That's how they knew me. I had cards sent to me in the hospital constantly because Nate's sick again. He's out. And I didn't really have anyone I could relate to. When it came to examples of people who would come in and leave who were suspected of having Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, we bonded on a certain level. But those kids were older than me. All of them were older than me. So there was always sort of a limit on who could really understand what exactly I was going through. And this was during a time when I didn't even know I had a rare disease. So when it finally came time, I think the first thing I did with the association was the World Orphan Drug Congress. And being there with Michelle and Drew, I felt like I had people behind me who had my back. Um, the idea of never having to say, yes, I have HLH. HLH is, and then explain it to people is amazing. I've always been having to unfortunately explain everything. And then predicting that after I explain this thing, you're still not really going to understand me. So I either have to explain further or you're not interested, so I need to move on to something else. And it's just I very very much appreciate finding this community, the histio community, plus the rare disease community in general, because I met the histio community first, and then I went to the World Orphan Drug Congress, and it was my first time seeing so many people in one space, um, advocating for patients. I know I wanted to go to school for patient advocacy, but I didn't know how big of a field it was. And I remember all I could talk about was how I was in a room filled with patient advocates, and that was a mind blowing experience for me. I came home and I was, Mom, a a I was in a building of patient advocates. That's crazy. Where they all come from? Where have they been? Like that was just such an amazing thing to discover. So that is my favorite. That's the best, the biggest thing I'm taking away from all of this. Today I am most proud of my determination. I am most proud of my consistency. I am most proud of my personality. I'm most proud of not giving up. There are many times I did want to give up, and there are many times where I cursed the world trying to figure out why this has happened to me. I've learned in life many lessons, a lot from my mother, and one of the things she made sure that I had when I was younger was a dream. It was dream big, always dream big, and you are working towards that dream. You're working towards a goal. I don't think everyone has a dream. I think sometimes there are people out there who don't necessarily have a dream, but they find what they're good at and they do that thing. And then there's some people who don't really know what they want to do. I'm hoping those people will find something that they want to do, because I feel like everyone should have at least that one thing that they like doing and just do it. Um, but I've learned that I'm fortunate to have a dream that I can also sort of like do forever, and at the same time this dream helps people, um and fills me with gratitude. Um this dream is based in personal experience. This dream isn't something that poofed out of thin air. This dream has been fought for. This dream has been, you know, literal blood, sweat, and tears for this dream. So I am most proud of the fact that I can dream, and that I have yet to stop chasing that dream. And if anyone were to take a look at my history and what I've done, without me having to speak, I feel like anyone can see what that dream is. So I'm most proud of that. This is the easiest question yet. It's important because it delivers hope, and hope is important because without it, what are you fighting for? If I didn't have any hope that things may one day work out, then there would be no point in any of it. Why fight through 12 years unknowingly misdiagnosed? Why do that? Um, Without hope that someday I will feel better. Someday I won't have to have surgery anymore. It is important that I share my story and offer hope to people, because there is a vast range of rare disorders. We've all had varying levels of care and experiences. I've had a lot of experiences. And if someone can hear my story and be like, Nate now seems great. Nate now is like doing some great things, but I'm reading this story. In no way this is the same person. Like that is powerful. Um, and that person can hope that maybe one day they will also, they can see themselves better, and then they can be better. Um, and then that person will be the hope for someone else. It's a chain reaction, and that's why I think it's so important. I do. I do. My rare disease histio hero is a fellow ambassador, and his name is Ty. Is my histio hero because Ty's story is very, very difficult to hear, and Ty is still very young. So I don't necessarily know if Ty is fully aware of how, just like the true weight and impact of his story. I'm not sure if he may. I'm not sure if he grasps that fully yet. And the only reason why I make that assumption is because I did it when I was younger. Like I was saying in the beginning, I have just now begun fully processing everything that I've been through, and really, coming to terms with it. Ty's been through a lot, and he's very young, and he's been advocating like some serious events, and he's doing it so early, and that's not something that I did. Um, I think Ty is very, very strong, and I think he is very, very. I think he's impactful, and I think the fact that he puts himself out there to share his story and better the community is very, it's just amazing. I would just say very quickly that I was fortunate enough to attend Histio Thai Fighters last year in October. It's the 5K that they have. It's a race. Hi, Ty loves Star Wars. It's Star Wars themed, and every function needs to have a great theme. So he had a theme, and it was a fundraiser to raise money for histiocytosis. And I was like, what's a better event to go to than a themed party for histiocytosis? Ty is amazing. Um, and I really, really hope I get to attend more 5Ks. And I really hope I get to go to the Shenandoah, the Histio Hike Shenandoah. I really want to do that. Another thing that Ty is a part of. He's a part of some great things. So yeah, he's my hero because he's super young, and I think he is doing some really powerful things very early, and it's amazing to see. My happy place is, the tricky thing is, when I was younger, the place I would feel most comfortable was the hospital. When I was home and I would get sick, when I would have Crohn's flares, and I would have extreme stomach pain or anything like that, whenever there was something wrong, my symptoms were so severe. They would always say he has the most severe case of Crohn's we've ever seen. The most severe case of Crohn's we've ever seen. And now people in the rare disease community roll their eyes because that's, I feel like people just would naturally think to check other options when they hear, oh my gosh, this is just, we've never seen this, it's so severe. I knew that whenever I went to the hospital, I would leave feeling better than when I went in. So it easily started becoming my comfort place because there was a bed there. I told you I made family with the nurses. I was at home. They brought me meals. I wasn't tired all the time because I was dehydrated because I had IVs in me. I was healthy in the hospital, so I felt comfortable in the hospital. Um, Now I don't really know where that is, but I do know I enjoy my alone time. I know that I've been horrible at taking time for self care in the past, especially when you're working towards a goal like graduating college and you're just work, work, work all the time. In the classes, in the curriculum, it's hard to take time for self care. When I started putting that to the forefront, I started realizing that I enjoy times by myself, times where I can think and it's quiet and I can really just think about my life. It's allowed me a lot of space to process things, emotions, my past, my health, like I was saying. And so that I would say is my happy place. I'll pop some headphones in, listen to some good music, listen to some Taylor Swift or some Beyonce. I I will do that, and I've been working on myself and trying to just plan for my future. I'm kind of designing a mood board in my head. I should put it out on an actual piece of paper. But it's nice to just think about where I've come from and think about where I want to go, and just um, sometimes when I relay these thoughts or certain thoughts to people, they turn into back and forths that I don't really want to have, conversations that I don't really like want to have. So when I'm by myself and I'm just alone with my thoughts, I can take my thoughts and then just have that space of quiet and process those thoughts to myself. So that's my happy place, I would say. Me alone, um, with some headphones in. I feel like now it's difficult for me to be alone. Um, I'm having this crazy dynamic where it's hard for me to reach out and really like communicate with a lot of my friends all the time because I'm it's very easy for me to self isolate and process my own things about myself because that's what I did all those years in the hospital. I didn't want to talk to everyone on the phone every day. So I would go those months without speaking to my friends, and I would just be in the hospital in the zone trying to process my sickness and like just feel better, and that's it. And so now like I self isolate, and at the same time I'm like I feel so alone. I'm always by myself. Um it's something I have to figure out because my life was one way for I was I was living as a misdiagnosed patient more years than I've been alive. So it's a lot to unpack, and it's a lot to I'm I'm discovering what my life is like beyond that point now. Anywhere that I can, social media, the Histio Association provides numerous outlets for me to really advocate all year round. The whole thing, and the it's so funny because I'm a person who looks for signs, and I don't always look out for them, like look for them searching, but I do like I keep my eyes open to take note of them when I see them. And I don't think everyone believes in signs, but one thing that I think is a sign is that Histiocytosis Awareness Month is the same month as my birthday. I've been trying to figure out what my life would look like as a healthy person for so long. And then I finally discovered that I was misdiagnosed and had this rare disorder. And Histio Awareness Month is on my birthday. And it's like, I feel no. I'm not more motivated to advocate than like on my birthday month for my rare disorder. It's not that it's this supercharged month where I advocate more than any other month, but I specifically am planning like these are my standout awareness events for the year because these two things are lining up for me. This is my month. It just feels like it was made for me. Um, so I love the association for that reason. It gives me lots of outlets for that. And the Everlife Foundation also is huge. We're partnered with a lot of people. This internship alone at the RDLA, the work that I do for them is all advocacy. Everything that I do is advocacy. Just my title is rare disease legislative advocate. I'm an advocate intern, so I have lots of space, room, a platform to advocate. Um, and beyond that, I'm trying to grow my own personal brand to advocate even more. So I can be sort of a triple threat. I can do some extra advocating on all realms. It's like every area of my life I'm advocating. When I'm off the clock, I'm advocating for Nate. Next month it'll be a histio. I do everything I can for histio. When I'm on the clock, I'm advocating for every life. And each scenario, I'm advocating for me and for every other person in the rare disease community. Um, I know I'm doing a good job because I know what I need and would have needed at the time, and I just feel like I'm the best situated to do it. I have a seat at the table finally. I've been praying for one for a long time. Now I have a seat at the table. I can actually do something about the things that need impacting, and I've been surrounding my life with just that. One important takeaway from my journey is things definitely happen in their own time. I am not afraid to admit that I absolutely hate the idea of having to wait for, quote, the right time. Um, that is something that I think everyone has heard. Things happen when they're supposed to, things happen in the right time. When I hear things happen in the right time, I hear I was supposed to be misdiagnosed and it wasn't my time to be healthy until I was 19. That's what I hear. So it's one thing that I've learned and that I'm taking away is that may all be true. And may make me upset, but it is true. Things do unfortunately happen in their own time. There is not a single thing that I could have done to get myself correctly diagnosed. I didn't go to med school before I was 7, and I only had the knowledge that my physicians were there to give me. So I was following this journey, this thought process as I thought things should have been. And then next thing I knew, I found out that I had a misdiagnosis. So that happened in its own time. I could have very well died. I could not be here right now. I had a meeting with my entire family, my entire immediate family, all my physicians, my primary nurses. I had a nursing team. Um, Palliative care was there. Cora was in the meeting. I had a physical therapist in the meeting. We all sat around this long table, and this was um, right after I was told I had HLH, and they were explaining to me what to expect. This meeting was formed to ask me if I wanted to proceed with transplant, um, because the type that I was getting was experimental. And in patients with HLH, I was told that it's very risky. Bone marrow transplants in general are very risky. And my particular set of symptoms were making it more risky. And that the chances weren't looking very good. 50%, I don't do the transplant and I die. 50% I do the transplant and it could kill me because it's advanced. It's complex. It's a complex procedure. Um, when I decided that I would fight, um, because I would rather take the 50 that is fighting to at least see if I have a fighting chance than just give up and go in the town now. You know, I learned that things happen in their own time because I could have died. That transplant could have killed me. Somehow I was meant to keep living and I was meant to finish school and I was meant to meet the Histio Association and I was meant to go to the World Orphan Drug Congress and find out that every life existed. You know, I was meant to be inspired by that and go to more conferences and make more connections and, you know, be able to form relationships that led me to this internship. I was meant to do all those things in the right time. And that sucks. It really, really sucks hearing that. Because if you had told me in the beginning that it would take me until now to really figure out my footing, I couldn't even fathom that. You mean to tell me all these years later, I'm gonna actually be doing what I want to be doing? You know, um, the fact that I didn't know all those years that I was misdiagnosed is a blessing. I don't really know what I mean. Imagine. So it's like my takeaway, although it's not my favorite thing, is that things happen in their own time, and things happen for a reason. I had a rare disease, but my experience was not rare. And I want people to know that because this is a call to action. Um, I eventually made it to the other side. The journey was long. There are still so many people currently still in the thick of it. I remember what it was like to be in the thick of it. And it's the worst thing ever. One thing that I've always done was imagine what people who were living without health issues were living like. It's a form. It's kind of I don't think people would say that's the healthiest thing, but I've always wondered, you know, how must their lives be? You know, how must it feel being able-bodied and doing your things and just living? Because when I was in nursing school, I wanted to be a nurse because I wanted to be a gastroenterologist. I wanted to go into that and deal with Crohn's because I had a bag and I was going to do all that. I went to nursing school and I started realizing that there were people who wanted to be nurses who had never been in the hospital. I I I would talk to them. We would have conversation, and they're like, "What brings you here?" I'm here because I spent my life here, and now I'm trying to give back to other people. You know, the way that my nurses were there for me. What about you? Oh well, you know, I used to I used to think you needed passion, and you needed passion to do anything in healthcare. You needed passion to be a nurse. How can I have this nurse who's putting it all on the line for me if she doesn't have compassion? Um, I have found that there are tons of fantastic medical professionals who don't necessarily have the same passion for it as I do, or other people who've been impacted. I think that it's particularly special when you are impacted and you are passionate to use that energy to bring awareness to these causes. I think that there is a lack of conversation and awareness being put out in the world by physicians I personally find that the advocacy work that I've been doing personally and with the organizations that I'm part of is incredibly, like, we do so much stuff. However, I have never really seen any physician advocating for histiocytosis like the way we do. My transplant doctor who diagnosed me, he had been studying histio for a long time. He had many patients, but I, I've never seen him raise awareness for it. He knows that it's super dangerous and that it's rare and that Crohn's patients get misdiagnosed with HLH commonly, but I haven't seen any awareness around that, and I haven't seen much awareness around diversity and equity in healthcare from physicians either. I think that it is needed, and I think there are a lot of statistics and data that could help us with a lot of rare disease research. If we knew more information about different demographics of people and how they're affected, it could help with a lot of treatment plans and just the simple fact that African Americans are the least represented in the National Registry for Bone Marrow. There's different systems in place that are kind of making it harder to receive the care that we need. And so this isn't just for me, and this is for all of us. One important thing that I want everyone to leave with is I want physicians to take accountability, but I can't ask for other people to do so if I don't do the same. And while I'm doing that, I would like everyone else to do the same too. And I'm making myself accountable because I have the knowledge. I know that people are commonly misdiagnosed with Crohn's when they have HLH because there are like symptoms, um, and it would be unjust for me to do nothing with that knowledge. I think that just by posting and spreading the word, you don't know who sees it. You don't know who you're helping. And so the fact that I'm using my voice, I can be filling a gap that this physician in this area isn't filling. And I think we should all do the same. And I think we should all collectively encourage the physicians that we know to take part in some advocacy as well. Because I'm not seeing it, and it's not hard. It's not hard. I'm doing it. I don't have I don't have a professional background. You don't need training per se to post on your phone. Like HLH is similar to Crohn's, and we all have different networks, so we're able to reach different people. So I encourage everyone to speak to the physicians that are close to you, that are willing to listen to you, that have your back, and ask them, hey, I'm doing this advocacy work and I would really appreciate it if from time to time you took a moment to tell someone about this or raise awareness in this way or post on your Instagram story, a fact about this. Or Histio Awareness Month is coming up. It's the whole month of September. Maybe you can post a couple times this one month of the year and put up histio facts for the people who don't know. It feels like we're doing all the work. And I personally am not seeing it. And I invite any physician out there to show me what they're doing because I will boost you up and spread your words as well. But I'm not seeing it, and I need it. I need to see it. So I'm going to be holding my physicians accountable, and I hope that you all feel brave enough to do the same as well.